Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. A new moon in Scorpio this time of the year is always a time for delving deep. And in this chart we have Uranus exactly opposite Sun and Moon. And they're not immediately connecting with anything else in the chart, so it's as though the flavour of the month has got this as its background absolutely clear. And Uranus is about letting go. We're letting go because we need to be free. We are free spirits, but we don't let ourselves be free. Free doesn't mean separate, it means free to act along with the spiritual flow, with the way things need to be unfolding, the way they are. Free to be connected, rather than held in our own bubble of memories and habits. This freedom is being suggested in Taurus, the earth practicalities. So it's on a physical level that we'll be noticing our tethers. And however it looks, we can only have any effect in our lives if we take responsibility for our own tetherment. We have to untether ourselves. So this month is really focused on the untying from past circumstances that we need to do. It seems very clear this month. What we need to let go will very possibly be taken from us. But we need to bear in mind that as long as we are detached from things, as long as we don't tie ourselves to them in a restricting way, we are free to have them in our lives. Because Uranus is in Taurus, it is likely to show up as changes in our material circumstances. And this is changes. It's not necessarily the loss of possessions, finance, people. It can be the coming of those things if we have previously tied ourselves to a sense of loss. If we've identified ourselves with poverty, it could be that it's poverty that goes. So it's important that we keep an open mind as to how this might manifest. It's not about being afraid of being shocked into an awful space. It's about being interested, open-minded, looking for the possibilities in every situation that arises. The other aspect that's exact this month is Mars in Libra, at right angles to, that is square, Saturn. Saturn is holding this position exactly between the South Node and Pluto, close enough to both to be involved with both. The South Node being our past way of running lives, of running the world, of running the finances, the business, of running our practical lives, ancestry, tradition, and the need for transforming it, because it's out of date and growth becomes impossible if you're tied down in too many places to the past. Mars squaring those gives us an extra impetus to somehow express our desire for the Libran experience of life, which is that desire for harmony, for peace, for, well, at one level, niceness, pleasantness. But in truth, Libra is the scales, and the two pans of the scales tend to hold what look like opposites. They are actually two places on a pole of a particular attitude, a particular situation perhaps, of possibilities in a particular situation, possible attitudes to something, possible ways of being in a relationship. The pole can be as long as you like, going to extremes at either end, but it's one pole. And in Libra, we learn to balance it as we walk the tightrope of moment-by-moment living. So the balance has to be between what we perceive as light and dark. You don't get all light in the scales. And Mars' energy, the energy to get things done, our motivational force, and this is motivating the whole world, all of us, to find a balance in life between what we like, what we want, and what has to be. It's been said, hasn't it, that we would be happy if we could want what we have. And our wanting is very largely a choice. So how far we need to go up these two ends of the pole is up to us, really. And really, the balance point is the hand that holds the scales above and between those two ends. But Mars is giving us the impetus to do that, to somehow get a grip on what that pole represents. In any situation in our lives, there is a tendency to want it one way and have it not quite the way we would have wanted. So there's the two poles straight away. So we learn to walk the tightrope between. The best way to deal with those situations that come up, exposing two apparently opposing views, is to relax, take our time, and see if we cannot find that middle way. That other lovely phrase, you can't solve a problem at the level it's created. You have to lift yourself up to have a broader perspective so that you can properly encompass both ends. It's a triangle, actually, and we need to be in the top point of ourselves. Saturn in Capricorn is very much about what is, and the Mars connection is adding energy to that and the changes that are happening. So it's a very happening month. Uranus is about sudden happenings. Maybe we need to be prepared to be shocked. And you know how when you fall, if you relax, you're less likely to hurt yourself. The full moon chart, to my eyes, is the best chart I've looked at in these letters for months. Best in the sense of the planets connecting in a harmonious way, so that even where there are difficulties, say with the Saturn approaching Pluto, we have the Sun and Mercury sextiling them. So our hearts and our communication from the heart is endeavouring to work that change, endeavouring to understand at a deep level how it can possibly be brought about. And the trine from Sun and Mercury to Neptune, who sextiles Saturn, is bringing in a sensitivity and an openness to spiritual input that assures the results to be in harmony with what needs to be. And the moon, of course, opposite to the sun, is making extremely harmonious aspects to the same planets from Taurus, the earth. So this is the encouragement and perhaps even the suggestion that it will be so, the relaxing and the calming down, the taking things gently, so in an organic way. I think of the earth not as being fixed, but as growing organically, and possibly a bit slower than we can recognise. No way is the earth fixed. So whatever shocks there might have been earlier in the month, it looks as though by the full moon we are in a good space for sorting them out. The Mars, still coming from Libra, finding the balance, is working with that sextile to Jupiter in Sagittarius, fully open to finding different ways from what was expected, going off in a different direction from what was even thought possible, perhaps, and searching out possibilities we hadn't known. Even Mars' square to Pluto will be over by the full moon, as though we have realised by then that resistance to what is useless. So this whole month is going to require us to be completely honest about how we feel, where we stand, what's most important to us, but without pressing to make it so that dialogue can happen, so that we can adjust ourselves to the needs of others, as well as expecting them to include ours. Exciting times. Neptune is so involved in all this process as it sextiles the Saturn. When in doubt, pray. Wherever you hear of difficulty, fill your heart with light and send it. To worry about situations and people and the planet and the future is to produce a sense of greyness, fear, black, and to spread it. Whatever happens, my dear friends, create light. Thank you. Fear has no place at the discussion table, but cannot be left outside the door. You are not your fear, dear one, so place it gently beside your seat, recognized and soothed as a cared-for child, while the adult in you faces reality. You are not alone in your world, but held in the presence that guides all life. You are a river flowing into the sea of oneness, where all travellers are greeted as one. One life, many forms, reconnecting, and yet never separate.